Hey Ratbags, it's Jade. After years of covering the development of Smalland, Survive the Wilds, it's finally here in early access, or it will be. I've been given permission to post my first impressions a little bit earlier, so hopefully this gives you an idea of what to expect and whether or not you should try the game out. It's out on 29th of March across Steam and Epic Games Store. So let's cut straight to it. What do I think? Let's start with the story and what the game is. You are emerging from the underground, hundreds of years after the last humans have died, pretty much to reclaim the land. As part of the Vanguard, we are now going to explore, basically set up and gather resources and maybe see if we can tame some creatures to help us along the way. We'll come across various different NPCs that will have quests for us and be able to unlock brand new armors and try and survive in a harsh environment filled with actual seasons that can affect how you're going to go about things. Some extra mechanic information you need to know. It is going to be 1 to 10 players and it's going to be co-op, so they'll be able to join your worlds and then that's it for the moment. But they do have plans to add proper dedicated server support in the future, and I'm guessing there'll be a chance to us to either host your own servers or rent your own servers in the future as well. You'll start off taking a look at all of these owl effigies, which will give you basically tutorials and mini guides about what you should be doing. There is a fog of war on the map, so the more that you explore, the more you'll uncover, and it's a fairly large one. Even at early access launch, there's quite a substantial amount to go and explore, and it's clearly going to be expanded in the future too, as there are some invisible walls and natural barriers that you won't be able to get across until later. The whole heart of the game at the moment is finding these NPCs who will then give you recipes for different armor sets. They'll then craft the armor for you, and they may have certain quests like revealing locations of mini bosses or bosses for you to go and conquer. And a lot of these bosses you will require the items they drop to help you craft and make something or move on to the next location, boss and NPC. There is more to the story as well. They've also got some idea of a queen who's quite sick, and we're going to have to pretty much find a cure for her. So right now it's not a massive focus though. It's only these small little scenes with these NPCs, and that's pretty much it in terms of story. There is a lot of environmental storytelling, particularly about what's gone on with the humans before us. Different parts, different things you'll find in the environmental points of interest, but otherwise I would say the story definitely could do with fleshing out, and that would be natural. That will happen during early access, and it'll be interesting to see where it takes us if we can find a cure for the queen and what that will mean. But you're not buying this game for the story, you're buying it for the survival mechanics and the open world exploration and adventure. So how does it measure up? I actually got a chance to play a very early test version of this game a good couple of years ago, and it's come on so massively well. I'm really pleased to see the world looks vibrant, full and lush. It's got so many different types of foliage, plants and more. A lot of it is kind of superficial though. You won't be hacking away at everything like you do in games like Ark, where you're pretty much guaranteed to get fibre, seeds and flowers or berries from everything. Here there are specific nodes that you'll be able to harvest, like twigs or certain flowers only that you'll have to chop. This does mean though that they can have a really rich environment, and it does look fantastic. It also means that you'll have creatures running from the undergrowth sometimes. Luckily we've got a sense option that we can use to help us in the dark, as well as times, like I said, when creatures are hiding or you want to find resources. This pretty much reveals stuff around you. The icons are kind of very basic. I feel like in the future it'd be nice if they were a bit more tailored. But it definitely helps a lot, especially to find resources when you're new to the game. It's got a similar standard crafting menu and way of doing things towards things like Valheim, where you kill a bug or you get a new resource and it unlocks new recipes. And likewise, you won't be able to craft certain things until you get the right crafting station. The creatures is definitely one of the biggest selling points in Smalland. There are so many different types of bugs and creatures. Various small versions, you've got soldier versions, you've got all sorts of different sizes and a huge selection of spiders. Luckily, they have added an arachnophobia mode at the moment. I didn't think it was going to be added in during early access, but they have got it there for launch. So if you're not a big fan of spiders, don't panic. You can reduce the amount of legs they have, how short they are, very similar to something that Grounded did. Your first few days in Smalland, it may feel like you're playing Ark. Every creature pretty much wants to kill you, and you'll be attacked on sight by a lot, even things like ants. In that regard, it can be quite challenging if you don't quickly learn about where to base build. That's probably another really strong point of Smalland, is the fact that it has a very unique base design thing going on. You can build bases anywhere you want. Huge wooden constructs, stone fortresses eventually when you unlock the recipes for them. And again, it's very similar to other games in the survival genre like Conan or Ark. Now when you go ahead and build your bases in and around on the ground, you will be attacked by certain creatures and bugs during the nighttime as more of the creatures become ferocious, or you get variants that will attack you. Even ladybugs become more ferocious at nighttime. So your best bet is to build inside of a tree, well on top of a tree really. And this is a really cool feature and definitely one of the best things I've found. You effectively claim a tree, any tree that's got mushrooms growing on it, and then there's a little lift that will take you up to the top once you've climbed it the first time and actually got up to where you'll find an effigy to then claim it, and then that tree becomes a base that you can take anywhere. Join your friend's world, and when you join their world, your base will be on another one of them trees. So you'll be able to share resources with each other or take the spoils with each other if you so wish. You're moderately safe in these trees, you won't be attacked by insects or bugs, and you can make the trees private, like I said, that players can't troll you or take any of your gear. This is a fantastic feature and one of the standout ones. Being able to take all your hard-earned items and go and help your friends out, but also knowing that you're going to get some rewards from it by taking resources from that world back to your own eventually is just fantastic. There's a huge selection of different base building pieces, and though it doesn't have maybe the creative freedom of something like Valheim where you can merge so much together, it does definitely offer a huge variety. Some of it is a bit grindy to unlock though, especially the stone tier. I think for most survival fans, this will be music to their ears. They enjoy the little bit of a grind. Smalland is a grindy game for sure. I do feel like the grind is sometimes there though to show a little bit at the moment that it doesn't have as much content to keep players engaged for too long. The main focus is surviving in the world, doing exploring and obviously getting them armor sets. But other than that, the mechanics aren't really grabbing me as much in terms of a core hook just yet. In Ark, you have the taming, or maybe even PvP on proper online servers. In games like Valheim, the exploration really takes you far and wide, and you see a huge journey and challenge in overcoming bosses and the very unique different biomes that you'll encounter. In Grounded, it is the survival mixed in with the great locations, the UI, and the huge amount of creatures that you'll face in that game alongside story. And while I'm a bit loath to compare games, I think it's only natural, especially in the survival genre where it's oversaturated quite a lot. Is Smalland offering anything new? Not really, but is it doing a lot of stuff well? Yes, absolutely. The world is fun enough to explore. It's dangerous enough that I think real fans of games like Ark and Conan will probably be more drawn to this than others. The grind to get materials and get the armors that you need and the weapons, I feel a lot of people really appreciate, but for me, I've been turning more towards survival light games lately, as I find that just being grindy for the sake of it isn't always as appealing as it used to be in survival. It will take you many hours to get through all and try and get every single armor set or be able to tame some of the creatures. Sadly, not all the creatures in the game are tameable. In fact, there are only 4 different mounts that you can get right now as of early access launch. But we know from previews and stuff they obviously plan to have a lot more, and I really would implore them to focus on that. I would also say definitely focus more on the taming aspects. Once you get tames and creatures, they can be quite easy to lose. The health on them isn't that great, so more often than not you'll lose them quite quickly. However, the plus point is you can actually tame them pretty quickly. Unlike Ark, where you've got to spend days actually taming creatures in real life sometimes. In Smalland, you simply just go ahead and give a creature a treat once you've beaten it up a few bits. It's then immediately tamed and you can do what you want with it. I really want to see this fleshed out. There's very basic stuff you can do with them. Some of them have attacks, others will be more like guard dogs, or others will just be helping you get around the map. And that's okay, but I definitely want to see more choice in the creatures we'll have and more options to do with them, like basic commands for them to either stop, follow, that kind of thing. And again, I'm loath to compare, but you have to when these games have these kind of mechanics. It would be nice if there was a way to either breed more creatures and just have some sort of longer lasting connection. During a lot of the kind of stuff they've shown off in the past, they've spoken about some sort of connection between you and your creatures, and that over time your creatures will get stronger. I couldn't really witness it in the time I've already spent in Smalland, but I'm hoping that becomes a feature as well. That creatures that are very light on health and maybe not that great can suddenly get stronger and better as you grow. But given how easy it is to lose them, and sometimes some of the stuff that you need to tame them, it does take quite a while to get hold of, until you get to a certain point where you're inundated with bug parts that you can make as many treats as you want. But it does become a bit of a chore having to go out and get another creature that you know isn't going to last too long, and it kind of makes them not really worth it. Instead, the greater focus or more help is on getting armor sets with wings. I really liked the different armor sets. They look fantastic, and the art style of these particularly has really grabbed me. They all really encompass and look pretty badass using some of the creatures that you basically slay. And as I said, it is one of the main focuses of the game is getting these armor sets, because some of them will give you protection against either cold, maybe even poison, or even regenerate your health. But they are all kind of basic at the moment. Apart from 2 sets that give you explicitly wings to help glide, the rest of them don't really offer any actual physical attributes. There's no changes in how you move really, other than a tiny bit of a speed boost or slowdown depending on what armor set it is. That's definitely what I want to see improved during early access. The ability to have some of these maybe have a double jump on them, more specific buffs that really make that armor set the go-to armor set to deal with certain creatures, or just come up and try and find some unique buffs and things that you can actually see as you're running around or utilizing in the world that make them a bit more of a difference. In terms of another unique point is the seasons, and at first glance this looks fantastic. You can really sense and see the actual colours changing in the trees as well as things hitting like snow. Definitely needs to be more indicators about exactly when these seasons are going to change. There's some cursory sort of timer that you can see whether it's day or night cycle, and I'm sure it probably does show exactly how many days it might be until the next season starts, but it's not immediately obvious. I think hardcore survival fans will really love the fact that winter comes, you really do have to make sure you've got enough better gear and certain foods to keep you warm. A big complaint I had originally was there wasn't enough foods to keep you warm, but I realised that I had maybe not been focusing enough on killing certain bugs and creatures. And that's because I was playing probably in peaceful mode, which is another benefit. There is a peaceful mode, although it's not creative at the moment. You can attack bugs and they'll leave you alone, they won't harm you, although they do follow you quite menacingly, like a really bad case of the heebie-jeebies, having a bunch of bugs chase you and just lurk every time you go to harvest something. So I do hope they add a creative mode in future, but it's not the end of the world right now. It's just good at least that players who don't want the stress of creatures attacking them, they can just explore, have fun, gathering the resources and taking things at their own pace a little bit more. But in terms of the seasons, I definitely want to see more buffs or more changes. Again, maybe it's there and I just hadn't noticed, but it feels like some of the other seasons don't really affect the gameplay as much. As far as I could tell, you can get all resources pretty much in any weather. Maybe there's more abundance of stuff in summer, but it was still pretty hard to tell. You can still find berries in winter in certain spots, and the plants in terms of resources, they are all pretty much the same. So I think they should probably lean into this. Like I said, I know I want survival light, but I recognise a lot of people really like the idea of having a pretty harsh survival atmospheric game. So the idea that you have to really prepare for these seasons better, making sure you've got more resources and that things are going to be low, I think that's probably the way to go. There are a few superficial things with this as well. I'm sure in the teasers we'd seen that water would freeze, and I swear I've just not come across that anywhere where a lot of pools of water. There's some big rivers in, and you have to be careful because you can't swim in the game. As soon as you try to, you'll pretty much die, as will your bugs and tames. The water is meant to give a natural barrier to stop you from exploring areas too early. That said, when you couple it all together with tames, even eventually, if some of them are a bit hard to get hold of, plus the armor suits that give you the wings and the gliders, and a grappling hook, there are definitely lots of ways that you can get across the map. Some of them just need to be unlocked a little bit earlier. There's various other buffs and bonuses you can get from lots of foods. In fact, there is a huge amount of food selection you can cook once you start unlocking more recipes and the crafting benches. And likewise, there's the basic kind of potions you'd expect: healing, stamina, and anti-poison. I'd love to see this fleshed out even more, so we've got all different types of potions and even more buffs we can do. A lot of the creatures are susceptible to certain attacks from certain weapons. You've got like sharp edge, you've got blunt damage and piercing damage. And this is a cool feature, having to work out what something's weak to and strong to, so you can use the best weapon and make sure you've also got the best buffs or resources to help heal. All in all, Smalland is a really competent early access title. I didn't encounter many bugs at all in the 35 hours that I've played, other than maybe a few terrain issues in parts of the map that aren't finished just yet. It's got a fair amount of content, as I said, as long as you don't mind the grind. I do feel like some of that content just isn't rewarding enough just yet either. And I do feel it needs just something else, some other extra hook to really make it go from a good or great survival game to an amazing one. It's hard, how can you make something unique when so much has been done before? But they've shown with the base transfers and being able to join and the big selection in the base building parts, plus the seasons with a little bit more work, they are its unique selling points. If they can add dedicated server support in the future and give a lot more access to tames and make you have more connection with creatures, I think this game is going to be an absolute massive hit. It does feel sometimes mechanically like I'm playing a retro old school survival game rather than something fresh off for next generation. Now it doesn't always matter because Valheim doesn't look that amazing to some people even though it's a chosen art style, and I think that's the idea here, is that they've got a definitive art style they've went for, but it is kind of basic. It does feel like I am playing a survival game from a few years ago with only a few small modern tweaks. But again, just like so many early access titles, I fully expect updates to add more quality of life features like easier crafting and pulling items from chests. I've definitely got accustomed to playing certain games that give you certain things nowadays that are just a little bit more easy to play and have better interfaces. But all in all, it's pretty simple to explain and do. The armor system, you just simply put it on. It's got a fairly forgiving inventory system. No way to increase how much you can hold, and none of the tames will do that at the moment. But maybe that could be an idea for some of the armor sets in the future, that some of them will give more extra inventory slots. The world is quite twee, the music is fantastic, although I definitely want to see more kind of, I guess, big sounds from some of the creatures. You definitely know when you're getting attacked by a spider or something ferocious, but I want to hear that really blood-curdling sounds a lot louder. And no, I didn't have my sound settings turned down. It just didn't really feel as maybe monstrous as other games or as frightening as other games. With that, I'm pretty much going to just leave you and wrap it up. Smalland is a great start. In fact, Smalland Survived the Wilds, give it its proper name nowadays, has got really the basics nailed down for early access. It's smooth, it runs well, and it's competent in terms of what I think a lot of hardcore survival fans will expect. A bit of grind, good rewards, and certainly once they start improving how or what you can do with the tames, I think this game is going to come on leaps and bounds. For builders out there, I think they'll really enjoy building all sorts of crazy bases, whether it's in the trees or finding some safety somewhere on the map. I didn't really mention the biomes too much. The map is gorgeous, as I said, and you really know that you're in a different biome because it's so scary in places like the swamp, or certainly even just venturing down to the beach with the water around it. You really do feel that atmosphere. In the past, I've spoken to the devs and said I don't like the idea of too many human elements in it, making it big, because it always seemed a bit off the scale, but it seems like they've fixed a lot of that and corrected it. When you do come across the remnants of humans, it doesn't look too out of place anymore. And judging by the expansion areas they're going to be opening up, it does look like we'll be venturing more into human territory, and I'm hopeful that will give it even more of a flavour and difference from the biomes we've already explored. So yeah, go and buy it. As I said, it's a really competent survival game. It's a great start, and I think it's well worth picking up now and following its development and seeing what updates will bring with the new challenges and new stuff they'll add. Expect to see lots of it on my channel, and go and check out my JPG 100 Days channel, where I'll be starting up 100 days of Smalland survival live streaming very soon. Until then, enjoy, and see the link for the Steam page in the comment section down below. Bye bye.